It's Tuesday, January 16th, Oconee County Council, 6 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We always start with our public comment session, but there were no one signed up today to speak to us. Any council members have something to say this evening? Okay, well then join me please for a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Root?
Please pray with me if you like. Our Father, I just really want to start by giving you thanks for this day that you've made, for our lives, for every breath of air that we take, for our ability to act on friendships, work, value, to be good ones. I also pray for those who, particularly at this, where it's just been excessive cold, that by the comfort and warmth of that, require us to be your hands and feet to reach out, not be selfish, but to go out to share the provisions you've given us, with food and clothing and what have you, or just our time to help those who are less fortunate. Opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. King, the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We need to approve the minutes from January 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, changes, additions? All in favor? Aye. Mr. Mulder?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'll provide you the brief summary of the agenda for this evening. First of all, you have a proclamation 2018-01, which would celebrate the county's 150th year sesquicentennial birthday. We also have EMORS from the Oconee County Conservation Bank Board easement funding, which was requested approval on December 18, 2017 unanimously, that the council approved the $12,500 funding from their funds for the easement, which you should have that information in your backup. Second readings of 2017-32, 33 this evening. First off is 32. This would be an ordinance that would approve the extension of residential lease agreement with Mr. Kent Crooks and family on the house that we own that borders the C&D landfill. This property was involved in a lifetime estate. We purchased it a number of years ago and allowed the then current residents to maintain that life estate on that property until their passing, unfortunate passing. That occurred prior to last year, and we agreed, since we didn't have any immediate primary uses for the property, we allowed them to maintain the occupancy of the property through a lease. We still don't have any immediate needs for it, so we see no issues with extending the lease for one more year. Therefore, this ordinance would allow that to occur. Number 33 would be an amendment to our Chapter 38 Code of Ordinances, specifically related to the Lake Overlay District. Obviously, in the past, we've had a few issues with some of the accountability and enforcement capabilities within that ordinance and the lack of restrictions. We've modified the ordinance and submitted it for your review and approval to adjust those issues that we had and make it easier for the county's Community Development Office to enforce the lake overlay provisions. First readings of ordinances this evening is 2018-04. This is also amending Chapter 38 of our Code of Ordinances, specifically the zoning ordinance, that will modify the language for the setbacks for commercial structure setback language. This is also in regards to the zero lot line, similar to what we did for the residential structures within the last few meetings, to allow for a zero lot line for the adjoining walls of commercial properties, just like residential townhomes and duplexes and things like that. Resolutions this evening, 2018-01 and 02, both reference the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department, and specifically references a lease for the South Cove County Park and High Falls County Park. It's time to renew the lease with Duke Energy for those properties to continue operating those two parks. So this resolution would authorize the execution of that lease agreement for the public access area. No action items, few boards and commission appointments available, no unfinished or new business tonight, 2 council committee reports, which we can't wait for. We're excited about those intriguing reports. And 2 executive session items tonight. To receive legal advice in regards to a potential claim for property, and then also an economic development matter, Project Golden. And that's your agenda for this evening, and obviously, and as always, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
I just wanted to point something out on the backup material for the parks. Mr. Mulder, here, grab this.
Sorry?
That sort of jumped out and grabbed me as I was reading through that information.
The Carl?
Yes.
This doesn't even look like a complete printout.
It was in the backup material. I printed it out.
Yes, sir. Okay, we'll make the correction. Do you want this back, or do you?
No, I printed it so you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay. Moving on. Proclamation 2018-01. I need a motion to approve this proclamation to be read on January 29th.
Motion to approve proclamation 2018-01 for reading January 29th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Oh, hang on.
Aye.
There,
Whoops, what?
the stack of,
Oh, yes, if anybody would like to read through the proclamation, we have some ones printed out right there on the desk. You're welcome to grab one. Sorry about that. All in favor? Aye. E. Morris, Oconee County Conservation Bank Board easement funding.
motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Madam Chair, it's not, this is funding coming from Duke Power, it's not costing the taxpayers, right?
Oh, that's correct.
That's correct. There is no local taxpayer dollars involved with this. It's coming from the funds from the Oconee County Conservation Bank Board and donations that were presented to that board outside of the county.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
We have no public hearings tonight, no third reading, so we'll move on to second reading of ordinance 2017-32, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a residential lease agreement between Oconee County as lessor and Ken Crooks as lessee.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance 2017-33, an ordinance amending Chapter 38 of the Oconee County Court of Ordinances. This is regarding the Lake Overlay District.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
First reading of ordinance 2018-04, an ordinance amending Chapter 38 of the Oconee County Code of Ordinances. This is regarding setback language for commercial structures.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. First and final reading for the following resolution, 2018-01, a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a public access area lease agreement between Duke Energy Carolinas LLC as lessor and Oconee County as lessee, and other matters related thereto. This
Motion
is-
to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I want
Yes.
to ask just one question. Only thing we're doing here is, renewing the existing leases as they are.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Thank
I
you,
don't think
sir.
there's any major modifications to them. Yes, sir.
So how long? I don't recall reading. Okay. Okay, so 2018-01 is the resolution for High Falls County Park.
South Cove for 01,
01,
or it's High Falls,
High
02 is
Falls.
South Cove.
Yep. High Falls 01.
High Falls is 01 and South Cove is 02. Okay, so we're going to vote now on 2018-01 for High Falls County Park. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2018-02 is a resolution for South Cove County Park.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Board and commission appointments, do we have any candidates? I had some interest this week for building codes, but we did not receive his application just yet. I'll talk to him again. He sounded real promising. Okay, so we'll pass that. Any unfinished business?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Where the cardboard signs at the convenience center?
They're up.
They're up. I saw them in mine.
Number 10 didn't have it.
Ebenezer?
Yeah,
That was one of the first ones we did.
somebody done took my sign.
That was, believe me, knowing that was your convenience center, I'm not dumb, that was one of the first ones we did, okay?
Somebody done stole my sign.
Just get shirts made.
And I'll be honest, I'll give you some kudos, it worked. I was out there the other day, we had the sign up, and a guy walked up with a cardboard box with a bunch of trash in it, and he was gonna dump it, and he saw the sign, he dumped the trash out of it, and took it and put it in the bin.
Man, that's great.
So I'll give you kudos, it worked, at least for the one guy. But yours was one of the first ones we did.
And they stole it.
Well, I'll verify.
They
Stole my
recycled
sign. There you go.
Maybe somebody took it literally and took that one and put it in there.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. Thank you.
Well, on a recycling effort over at Strawberry Farm, which is where I go, the line to actually recycle is very long. There was 13 cars waiting in line to recycle. So, and that one kind of breaks up. I don't know if they're all the same, but the right side is everything, but the cardboard and everything is over by the regular bin. So that's a good sign that people are heading in the right direction.
We
So
actually got this morning I received in our solid waste meeting, the update on the recycling numbers for the second half of the year. I'll forward those on to everybody. We actually saw 150 plus tons increase from the first 6 months to the second 6 months. And a lot of that has to do with the efforts of the clerks, because we had that competition going. We created a new competition for this year as well to continue to encourage them. We saw one center actually increase in just in 6 months, 20-ton increase just in cardboard alone for that one center. So we're real pleased with their efforts, since you bring that up. And I'll forward those numbers to you so you can look over them.
Well, the recycling, the guys at convenience center, the guys and the women are just doing a fantastic job.
They are, and it shows it in their numbers, and you can tell the centers that are taking it serious. And the highest percentage increase, if I remember correctly, was Mountain Rest, was the winner of the most increase from the first 6 months to the second 6 months. They saw an increase just in 6 months of 4% in their total recycling. So they're doing a great job trying to encourage it, and some of the marketing efforts we've been put out are working. But I'll forward those numbers over to you since you brought it up.
Well, tell Swain to tell his staff that we really appreciate everything they're doing.
Madam Chair? If I could, just a housekeeping matter. We did refer to Resolution 01 as High Falls, and you referred to Resolution 02 as
South Cove.
But it is, 01 is South Cove, and 02 is High Falls. The actual resolutions.
Okay, so they are
You'll have to-
reversed.
you'll have to
do we
change
need
your
to
vote
amend the
just so
agenda?
Just so the minutes reflect it correctly.
Okay,
Just take that back.
So 01 is South Cove, 02 is High Falls.
Correct.
any new business? Okay, so let's hear our council committee reports. Mr. McCall.
Yes, ma'am. All right, our meeting was held January 9th. And first off, we had to cut the meeting short because we had too much stuff on the agenda as usual. But Mr. Mueller presented the strategic plan, the priorities that concerns our committee. community impact, continued recycling efforts, increasing marketing, public announcement, awareness campaigns to change the mindset to get people to recycle more. And we brought up the fact that if we don't recycle, it's gonna cause taxes to go up. If we recycle, taxes could go down because we selling the stuff rather than paying to haul it off and bury it. So that was really good. No action was taken on that list of stuff by the committee. The next thing was, Ms. Kamick addressed the committee highlighting the following: EMS, ALS services, that's ambulance, volunteers to provide basic life support, emergency personnel that can provide advanced life support services, Oconee Hospital trying to get them to provide full-time ambulances for the outlying areas. Somebody has a heart attack in the northern part of the county, it's a long ride, especially if you cardiac arrest or something bad happens. So we're working on that. We got an EMT station at Doug Holler Road from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's really good, but we need somebody there full time. It's like a fire hydrant. You only got water in it 23 hours a day. It ain't really doing nobody good when you need it. We're seeking further information from residents as to what their needs are as far as emergency services. We got an aging population. With aging population, we have falls and injuries in the houses, cardiac arrest, and other things. And a lot of these people get where they can't drive at night, they can't get themselves to the hospital, so we owe them services to help them. But no action, we didn't take any vote or anything. Then Charlie King gave us a real good update on everything that his people are doing. Can't say enough good about them. Incident response, fire response, emergency management, capital project apparatuses, buying new fire trucks, what all's involved in that. Holly Springs substation, the amount of training these people go through was astronomical. They really dedicated to fire people. Emergency medical response, career center program. We're trying to get kids started into the fire and EMT programs, to get them interested. And in 2018 commitments. Then we had a discussion regarding the amended solid waste, and that ran short, so Mr. Root gave us the drafts and told us that we're going to take this up at our next meeting. Then Mr. Bowler updated us, committee, on the result of cleanup efforts. And we went about the heating and air conditioning system has to be redone at the jail. Mr. Scott Carroll's working with us on some other problems we have. ServPro is trying to clean up where we had the fire at the jail. They about got that done. Scott, we'll be putting that on bids, right, to whoever's going to repair it, do the actual repair work?
Yes, sir. The architect is producing the construction drawings for bid purposes as we speak, and they'll be going out hopefully in the very near future for contractors to bid on the rebuild.
Okay. And no action was taken. This is all everything the last meeting was for information. The next thing I'm going to add to, we have got a problem in this county. And it's breaking and entering, thieving. And it's going rampant. And so I told Mrs. Kamick, and she said it was fine. I've got the sheriff here tonight. I told the sheriff, we're all adults here. Come up to the microphone and just lay it out. what he needs. And so many times in the newspaper, it said, oh, the deputies took so long to get to the thing. I called the deputy, they have so many deputies, those guys are running themselves ragged. And for somebody to say, well, that deputy didn't call me back about a barking dog when he was investigating 2 or 3 break-ins. And, the sheriff, I'm gonna give it to you. And thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. McCall, members of council. I'm still putting together some numbers for us. I know you talked about some fire report numbers and all, but we're starting to put together our 2017 yearly numbers, but I know we're going to be over 500 more incident reports department-wide that's been filed, by our deputies in 2017 versus 2016. Not all of those are crimes, being totally transparent, but just total number of incident reports that we filed as an agency. The chief and I, and this is something that I've already had one conversation with Mr. Mulder about. Over the last 4 years, we've tried to grow our needs with as much as we could through grant money, and we've been very successful at doing that. And he and I both agree our uniform patrol deputies are sometimes running call after call. And I've kind of made a few notes here, some things over the last 4 years that we've taken on that's kind of taxing us when it comes to our uniform patrol. I know we've had several tourist events these bicycle races and things, that takes 7, 8 deputies sometimes to block intersections and lane closures, to be sure that we keep those folks safe, keep the public safe. We've been very fortunate with the fishing tournaments we've had. I think we have had one boat that had his fishing rod stolen out of, but he's making sure that when these events are taking place, that we try to as much as we can put extra patrols at these boat ramps and parking lots to try to prevent vehicle break-ins. Of course, that taxes on our uniform patrol. Don't know what the Palmetto Trail, what that holds, but obviously, that's another good thing for Oconee County. But we want to be able to keep those folks safe, keep those vehicles from getting broken into, having that visible law enforcement presence. The student housing that we've seen, fortunately, come into our county, that carries a law enforcement response. Unfortunately, with the old West Point Stevens plant down toward Clemson High Point, they've got a restaurant and a little bar down there now with alcohol. So I can only anticipate those problems or the need for law enforcement response is going to grow in the future. Many extra duty events that we've been taking on the last 4 years. It's kind of taxing our manpower. Different folks are calling wanting to actually hire deputies for extra patrol, extra escorts. Having a law enforcement presence at their event that we've taken on. Calls for service. Obviously, Westminster has had to cut back on their police force. That's some additional calls for service that we've taken on in the city of Westminster, as well as covering for Walhalla and West Union and Salem. When the police departments are not on duty. I'm concerned, obviously, new business development. We love growth, but with that development down there at 93 and 123, I see shoplifting calls. I see vehicles getting broken into in the parking lots. Those calls for service, disturbance calls at those businesses down there. Our churches, if I had enough deputies, I could put a church at every service in the county. Asking for extra patrols on Sundays. Obviously, with what's taking place in our society now, our citizens are concerned about church safety. We've tried to teach our churches how they can keep themselves safer. But obviously, we would love to be able to have that extra patrol to ride, or have a patrol to just ride through that's not answering calls for service on Sunday morning. Very important duty that we're glad to take on, this time of year is for the tax office, providing manpower to keep disturbances down, during the tax season. And that's been very successful. This past weekend, I got a call from the Fair Oak Youth Center. And I said, Sheriff, we had an unruly parent down here on Saturday, and it kind of upset a lot of us. You know, we had some basketball games down here. Any way that your deputies can start stopping in on Saturdays. So I said, that sure, we'll certainly try to do our best. We might not be able to stay, but at least we can come in and out and, you know, stop in there. So that's another area, and hopefully, you know, with the substation there, they'll be in and out. But obviously wanting someone there, especially on Saturdays from lunch till 4 p.m. at least, you know, during the basketball seasons. Tri-County Tech, I haven't had a conversation with them yet, but, you know, we're going to have an increased student population there of adult and high school. So, you know, I see calls for service increasing there as well. Don't have the numbers yet on our drug operations, but I know our narcotics guys are telling me in the upstate, you know, we used to be able to buy ounces, and now we're having to buy quarter pounds, just because that's how much quantity is in the upstate, and those guys are staying busy doing that. So, you know, Mr. McCall is certainly right. Our uniform patrol is the area that we need, and it's not a want. You know, it's not something that the sheriff wants to grow. But it is definitely, I feel like, a need in order to keep our citizens safe, which I think is the most important function of what all of us do in local government, is certainly to keep our citizens safe. You look at what's going on in our society, you know, with people running people over on bicycles, bicycle trails. We've seen that happen. We've seen church shootings. You know, we've seen it. So, you know, I feel like as sheriff, we need that law enforcement presence there when we're having these different events and things in the county. The break-ins that we're having, you know, our investigators, they're running, got 5 property crime investigators, and those guys are working very hard. You know, we have had a rash of break-ins recently up in the Ebenezer area that I know we're working on some information this morning that come in. So that's, you know, in a nutshell, kind of where we're at. We're looking for the need for me as sheriff is uniform patrol deputies, because I know, you know, that visible law enforcement presence is a deterrent to crime. And I'm not against none of this other growth that the county is experiencing, but I just ask you to realize, you know, with that growth, we need that law enforcement presence there to protect our citizens. Be glad if anybody has any questions or any concern that you want me to go into any further, I'd certainly be glad to.
Mike, Madam Chair, if I could. Mike, thank you for coming and giving that presentation. To what extent do you think we can, through recreation, mentoring, prevent the next generation from turning to a life of crime, breaking and entering, selling drugs and all that? Is there, you think there's value in investing in that?
There is, and there has been, you know, let me give you some numbers on that value that we've already invested in, or you've already invested in. You know, you've grown our school resource officer program into the elementary schools. And in serving on Mr. Davis's recreation committee and looking at that, you know, we pulled some juvenile arrest data. We've actually seen those numbers go down, you know, in our juvenile arrest. So, you know, it made me feel good about what our SROs are doing in our schools. Of course, that kind of stretches into another, you know, when those students reach high school and they quit rec sports, then maybe, you know, we're not seeing them as a juvenile arrest, but we're seeing them as a 17-year-old arrest, which is an adult. Mm-hmm. So, you know, trying to bridge that gap somewhat, I think would be helpful, keeping kids engaged. Because once they become 17, they're an adult, and so that juvenile arrest data no longer counts. You know, that's considered an adult. But yes, sir, I do feel good that we are making progress with juveniles, with the leadership camp. You know, but that's a small portion. We've still got to deal. You know, we don't have borders, and with the many geographical jurisdictions that are by us, lots of times, you know, people on these break-ins, they come in from Toccoa or they come in from other jurisdictions here to break in.
That's not the kind of tourists we want.
Definitely not.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, at this time during my report, I'd like to make a motion. We take $5,000 from my council contingency fund to the sheriff's department. It's nothing but a daub on a Band-Aid to give the $5,000 to pay for some overtime for some deputies that are working these break-ins and these other things, because he's stretching his resources kind of thin. This is something we could do right now to help the sheriff out.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Since that would be in addition to the agenda, and it would be a final action, you need a motion to amend, and since it's a final action, you need a statement of why it's an emergency or an exigent event, so we don't have any FOIA problems.
Okay.
Barring something like that, I think it'd be good to put on the next council meeting perhaps.
Or I have authority to transfer between departments in the budget, so I can just do it on a whim if you'd like.
Knock yourself out.
I mean, the budget ordinance allows me to do transfer between departments within a fund, so I can just, on a whim, transfer 5,000 over to those overtime.
Do we have?
I'll have to verify that first. If not, we'll take it from salaries and you'll be all right.
Are we to that point where we're out of
No,
overtime
He's
funding?
got overtime money. We evaluate that. There's been no indication that he's over that at this point in time. But he always runs very, very close, depending on sicknesses and with the flu the way it is this year and the number of absences we've seen. I would imagine he's gonna come, if not right at it or above it. So we'll monitor it, but I don't have a problem with doing a transfer. And if he doesn't use it, he doesn't use it. I mean, it just goes back into the fund balance.
Okay,
But I'll verify you have it, but,
okay.
I think you do, but I'll verify.
Well, you can take it out of my salary.
I wouldn't dare do that.
Okay,
That's it, except I want to thank the sheriff and the chief to be here. One of the investigators is here tonight. I want to thank all of you, because it's easy to say, well, so-and-so's house got broke into. But what I'm hearing from the sheriff's department, the house got broken, it's not enough. Well, they got in and stole the big screen TV. They stole one thing. Nah, they go in there, they rake all the dishes off the shelves. They turn everything upside down. And they generally destroy the house. You come in, you might have lost $300 big screen TV, and they destroyed everything in the house. And then who's gonna clean it up? The homeowner, the taxpayer. And that's what we're trying to give the sheriff some more resources. And that's the end of my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. Mr. Hart, Transportation.
On January the 9th, 2018, approximately 6:30, called Transportation Committee to order. Mr. Kyle Reeds informed us about several things that were in progress. First was Emmanuel Church Drive. That's County Road SC 341. There's two property owners there, and one of them petitioned for 4/10 of a mile of this to be abandoned. So far, we've placed signs out and waiting on public comment, and when all this is finished, we'll bring it back to the full committee. Next was Savannah Drive, which is a private road, 3050. Those people out there want to enter into the rudimentary road program. Mr. Reed said it costs probably $30,000 to repair this road. There's 12 to 17 property owners out there. We don't have all of them signed the right of way yet, but we're working on that part. Next was the Golden Corner Commerce Park grading. Mr. Reed said 50% of the grading was done, but there's been no grading for the last 3 weeks because of the holidays and the weather conditions. Next was the Treasurer's Office Drive on Pine Street. And the update on that was we're waiting for encroachment permit from the Highway Department. And I hope that this can be done by November of this tax season coming. Next was a discussion on streamlining the process to accept roads into the county system. Mr. Reed has 4 pages of the specs right now, and he's hoping to reduce it. Next was a discussion about accepting Butler School Road into the county system. This road is in the city of Westminster, but the city of Westminster does not have the funds to keep this road up. And the Transportation Committee agreed to accept this road if it was built to the county specs. Mr. Reed called me today and told me that the cul-de-sac was 74 feet wide and it had 22 feet driving service. Next, all we need now is a deed from the city of Westminster to the county, and Mr. Reed wants to make a final inspection to make sure that the asphalt doesn't have any cracks. Next, Mr. Moeller had a discussion on our strategic planning for the year, which included projects that were not completed this past year that came over to this year, planning for our parks and recreation, for the medical personnel being positioned throughout the county. And this is just some of the topics, plus we rehashed some that we had from last year. Madam Chairman, that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hart.
Was you happy with that one?
That just thrilled him, I know. All right, moving along, we need to recess to executive session for the purpose of receiving legal advice and discussing a possible claim against the county and/or others regarding ownership of a certain parcel of real property located within Oconee County, and to discuss an economic development matter, Project Golden.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No action was taken in executive session. None is necessary. Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
So